Hello and welcome. Tonight, All Progressives Congress holds its first National Executive Committee meeting since August 2023. The ruling party passes a vote of confidence on President Bola Tinubu. Trade Union Congress rejects gradual increase in value-added tax as proposed in tax reform bills. NAFDAC proposes a law to make production of fake drugs punishable by death. And U.S. President Donald Trump says Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky will sign a very big agreement in the U.S. tomorrow.
On business news tonight, Dangote refinery reduces depot price of premium motor spirit by 65 naira per litre to 825 naira.
On sports, boxing moves one step closer to the 2028 Olympics as the International Olympic Committee provisionally recognized World Boxing as the body to oversee the sports at future games.
From the nation's capital, Justice Rahman Oshodi of the Lagos State Special Offences Court dismisses a request for his recusal from the ongoing trial of former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele.
I will not disappoint Nigerians. Those are words coming from President Bola Tinubu as he reaffirms his commitment to sustain the success recorded so far by his administration. While he made this pledge while addressing members of the National Executive Committee in Abuja today. The president says that he is grateful to all Nigerians for the recent electoral victories of the party, especially in Edo and Ondo states, and the latest defection into the party, while also promising to strengthen food security in the country.
Members of the All Progressives Congress gather for the first National Executive Committee meeting in the last 18 months.
To discuss very important.
Party leaders from the executive and legislative arms of government were in attendance. The meeting attracted serving and former governors of the party. However, former President Muhammadu Buhari, former governor of Kaduna State, Mr. Nasir El-Rufai, and former governor of Rivers State, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, were conspicuously absent. Setting the tone for the meeting, the national chairman outlined the agenda for deliberation with a key focus on the party's debt burden.
The current National Working Committee inherited debts and legal liabilities to the total tune of 8,987,874,663 naira. From all the cases outlined above, ranging from legal engagements during pre-election matters, election cases, and appeals for legislative, governorship, and presidential elections.
The meeting then moves to a closed-door session. In less than 2 hours, the meeting is open to the media to witness the vote of confidence in President Bola Tinubu.
To understand that what we have in our hands is trust from Nigerians. They trusted us and they voted for us. Therefore, we should continue to celebrate and pray to Almighty God to ensure that their expectations are not disappointed. It is therefore my humble pleasure to move a motion of implicit confidence on Mr. President for his courage, for his commitment, patriotism, performance, despite all challenges.
The leadership of the National Assembly agree with the governors and pledge to support the administration of President Tinubu.
Your strategic foresight and unwavering commitment have set Nigeria on a remarkable path to recovery, prosperity, and renewed national pride. The sacrifices made and the tough choices taken are now showing tangible benefits. From the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I can report to the NEC that our number is improving. We are growing and swelling by the day. Unfortunately, one of those who joined us from the lone party of the YPP, the distinguished Senator Ifeanyi Uba, is no more. And we can only say, may his soul rest
in perfect peace.
Reaffirming his commitment, a grateful President Tinubu vows not to let the nation down.
The rest of the world, the economy is unraveling here and there, both in Europe and America. We are seeing growth. We are seeing gradual return to prosperity.
Meanwhile, Governor Dapo Abiodun appealed to Nigerians to support the administration of President Tinubu.
Today, the party is walking tall. The party is confident, more confident than ever. More and more defections are being witnessed from other parties to APC in the National Assembly, House of Representatives, the Senate, and various houses of assemblies across the country.
The meeting concludes with a unanimous vote of confidence in the party's leadership.
The Trade Union Congress has rejected the gradual increase of value-added tax as proposed in the tax reform bills currently before the National Assembly. The Secretary General of the Union, Mr. Nuhu Toro, made this known during the public hearing of the House of Representatives Committee on Finance. The TUC also disagrees with the Nigeria Revenue Service collecting royalties instead of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission in the oil and gas sector. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Customs Service fears that the proposed Nigeria Revenue Service bill is likely to repeal the Nigeria Customs Service Act. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Ikumi reports.
You're welcome, sir.
It's a full house as the House of Representatives commences its three-day public hearing on the 4 tax reform bills. The session begins with the chairman of the House Committee on Finance highlighting the tax laws which the new bills seek to repeal.
The Companies Income Tax Act 1979, the Value Added Tax Act enacted in 1993, the Personal Income Tax Act enacted also in 1993, the Income Tax Authorized Communications Act enacted in 1966, Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Act in 1999, Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Act in 1971, Petroleum Profit Tax Act in 1959. That was the year I was born.
The hearing is declared open by the Leader of the House, who is representing the Speaker, and submissions are received from invitees.
It will be of great benefit for this committee to consider making exports from Nigeria to be zero-rated. That way, exporters from Nigeria will be competitive globally.
The TUC rejects the gradual increment of VAT from 7.5% to 15%. Our reason is simple. Increasing it will place additional burden on Nigerians, many of whom are already struggling.
The Nigeria Customs Service, in its submission, raises jurisdictional conflict issues with the proposed Nigeria Revenue Service Bill.
The Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill 2024, Section 1, it provides a legal framework for the administration of taxes and revenue under any law, where Section 42 defines tax. So this particular section subsumes everything that is provided under Section 3 and 4 of the NCS Act 2023. We should encourage collaboration, integration of operations between customs and the tax authority, not to abolish customs or not to repeal a law because we want to do another law.
As day one of the hearing wraps up in the House of Representatives, some participants raised concerns about the proposed use of technology for tax collection, while others urged the National Assembly to ensure that executive orders which are tied to laws that will be repealed by the new tax bills are reflected in the Nigeria tax bill to take away any ambiguity and avoid dampening investors' confidence. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
To health matters now. The World Health Organization and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, are calling on state governments to scale up budgetary allocations for health. The renewed call for increased funding for health was made at a meeting to review the implementation of a memorandum of understanding that UNICEF signed with 8 state governments in 2022. According to the WHO, global funding for vaccines and immunization is dwindling, and state governments must act now. The recent conflict between local government chairmen and governors is primarily about who has the authority to conduct elections. Well, that is what the Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, believes. According to him, efforts are underway not just to ensure financial autonomy for local governments, but to grant them administrative independence. The minister made this remark while commissioning the newly constructed Kebbi State Office of the National Human Rights Commission in Birnin Kebbi.
The Minister of Justice is in Birnin Kebbi, the Kebbi State capital, to commission the newly constructed Kebbi State Office of the National Human Rights Commission. The plan of the commission is to establish offices across all the states to improve access. However, there are financial constraints. As the latest beneficiary, the Kebbi State government is pledging to facilitate the connection of the office to the national grid.
In this context, the Kebbi State government, through the Ministry of Justice, established 2 units: citizens' rights, public engagement, and gender-based violence support units. The essence is to give the good people of Kebbi State access to information and justice, which will help to enhance public confidence in our judicial system.
The Minister of Justice reiterates the Tinubu administration's strong commitment to human rights, explaining the rationale for exempting the commission during the recent dissolution of boards of parastatals.
Mr. President, due to his predisposition to respecting human rights, directed that the Board of Human Rights Commission be immediately removed from the dissolved boards and restored, and the board has continued to enjoy full cooperation and support of the federal government till date.
The minister provides further clarification on the dispute over local government administration following the Supreme Court judgment.
You know, as for financial and administrative autonomy, they go together. They are there. The only issue that we have now is how do you get to that office? People say that it is the Electoral Commission of each state that is responsible for the conduct of election. So anything can happen in the process. Shouldn't we look at it more closely and see whether the national body, that is to say INEC, should have a greater role to play in the enthronement of the officials, elected officials at the local government.
Shortly after the commissioning, the National Human Rights Commission team held a town hall meeting with stakeholders to discuss human rights issues in the Northwest.
Those who engage in the production or sale of fake drugs and unwholesome processed foods in Nigeria should face life sentence and death penalty. And that's according to the Director General of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, who spoke to journalists at the State House today. The Director General has called on the National Assembly to quickly enact the amendment of the NAFDAC Act as a means of curtailing the scourge that is leading to the many deaths in the country. On the ongoing enforcement operation in the 3 open drug markets in Aba, Onitsha and Lagos, the NAFDAC boss says the agency is not against trade but determined to save lives.
A product that a child is going to take, anti-malaria, antibiotics. That child will just pass away. We don't need to shoot a child in the head before we kill a child, because that child cannot even talk, cannot express. You and I can express ourselves. This word drug is not working. The child cannot express himself or herself. That is why I'm in support of life imprisonment or death penalty. Because it's murder. Many of people have been murdered deliberately. Deliberately. Because these people intentionally decided to sell fake medicines to the masses. That is why we are doing what we are doing. We are not against trade. We have special office created about 5 years ago in NAFDAC, 4 or 5 years ago, Office of Trade and International Relations. We foster trade. We have brought more than $2 billion of trade into Nigeria. Pandemic taught us a lesson. Changing government in the US is teaching us a lesson. We've got to wake up and know that this is not about fighting against trade. It is about protecting life.
In part two, after the break, the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria lament the impact of federal government policies on operations in the country. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. The All Progressives Congress holds its first National Executive Committee meeting since August 2023. The ruling party passes a vote of confidence on President Bola Tinubu. The Trade Union Congress rejects gradual increase in value-added tax as proposed in tax reform bills. NAFDAC proposes a law to make production of fake drugs punishable by death. And U.S. President Donald Trump says Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky will sign a very big agreement in the United States tomorrow. Now, if there's one thing the Gombe state government is taking seriously, it is security. As the government has convened the second installment of its yearly security summit with a theme, building a safer and more secure Gombe state, addressing insecurity through collective action for the 2025 edition. Describing security of lives and property as a primary responsibility of the government, Governor Inuwa Yahya highlights his government's inclusive and proactive approach to making the state safe.
In what appears to be an extraordinary gathering of government officials and security experts from all over the country, the Gombe state government under Governor Inuwa Yahya says it is upping its game towards building a safer, more secure and robust state by staging the second installment of its security summit tagged Building a Safer and More Secure Gombe State.
The Peace and Security Ambassador and role model, His Excellency Muhammadu Inuwa Yahya, CON.
While identifying security of lives and property as the cornerstone of his government's policies, Governor Inuwa Yahya reveals how he mitigated security threats and brought down crime rates to the barest minimum through collaborative governance and homegrown initiatives such as the setting up of Operation Hatara and the Gombe Security, Traffic and Environment.
We expect this summit to produce concrete recommendations and strategies for enhancing security coordination in Gombe State. It will also strengthen partnerships between government, security agencies, and local communities for effective crime prevention and control.
The governor also announced that his government has procured 50 additional operational vehicles for security operatives in the state.
As part of our ongoing efforts to enhance security in Gombe State, I am pleased to announce the donation of additional operational vehicles to all the agencies, totaling 50 in number. We shall do that today before we conclude.
There were paper presentations on new dimensions of crimes and ways to eradicate them.
Building a safer and more secure Gombe, addressing insecurity through collective action, speaks to the urgency of coming together as one, that is government, security agencies, traditional institutions, civil society, the media, and the private sector to work together in finding sustainable solutions to the challenges of insecurity.
During his goodwill message, the General Officer commanding 3 Division, Brigadier General Eyitayo Oyinlola, commends Gombe State's security architectural framework and promised support towards ending insecurity.
The local populace plays a critical role in fostering a secure environment by building trust and cooperation between communities and security agencies, we can establish a system of vigilance and prompt reporting of suspicious activities. Your contributions during this summit, your insights, grievances, and suggestions will form the foundation of our action pillars.
After pledging to get more done in terms of security in the state, Governor Inuayaya commends President Bola Tinubu's commitment to the security, stability, and territorial integrity of the nation.
Two important issues that formed a major point of deliberation at the 80th General Assembly of the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, holding in Bauchi State, are electricity generation, particularly the hike in tariffs and the cost of diesel in the country. But the Assembly expressed deep concern over some government policies that are unfavorable to the operation and the survival of the media industry in the country. Our correspondent Hajara Aliyu reports.
Together with His Excellency at his
The Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, BON, is holding its annual General Assembly in Bauchi. The Assembly highlights emerging threats and challenges threatening the survival of broadcast media.
We are here for a very important...
The guest speaker is the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University Kashiri in Gombe State, Professor Umar Pate. He delivered a lecture on the theme, Broadcast Media in the Era of Economic Downturn, the Way Forward. He outlined several challenges facing the industry.
As all these new players who call themselves influencers and are gathering millions of people and cornering all the ad revenue. So as a media manager today, daily you are confronted with challenges of how can you remain in operation and compete with all these global media organizations. And for countries like Nigeria, where we still struggle with issues of power, to even energize our own radio and TV stations to remain in business is a challenge.
To tackle these threats, the professor of media history urges mainstream media to take advantage of emerging technology, invest in research, create quality content, build trust, collaborate and diversify.
If the quality of your content is low, they abandon you. If your message is full of propaganda, they develop immunity against your propaganda.
Governor Bala Muhammad of Bauchi State advised the media to avoid unethical practices amid the quest for survival.
The pursuit of profit must not override the principles that have guided this profession for generations. I urge you to prioritize the welfare of your staff and resist the external pressures that may seek to manipulate the media for selfish gains.
The Assembly also raises concerns about government policies affecting media operations.
Looking for various ways that we can diversify this issue of revenue generation, and looking at the various ways we can confront the issue of the power. And again, you know, the media, most especially Nigeria, everything that we are using is imported. And the devaluation of Naira has equally affected us.
The deliberations are expected to result in collective solutions to enhance broadcast media operations. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
We'll toss it over to Millicent Walker now in our Abuja studios, who's standing by to give us more on the news at 10. Over to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. And we continue with court matters. The Special Offences Court sitting in Lagos has refused to stop hearing the corruption allegations made against the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. Justice Rahman Oshodi, in his ruling on Wednesday, dismissed the request for him to recuse himself from the trial, holding that the allegations of bias against him were unsubstantiated. Our judiciary correspondent, Shola Shuele, has more.
The former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele is standing trial alongside his co-defendant Henry Omoyele, who the EFCC describes as his relative, before Justice Rahman Oshodi of the Lagos State Special Offences Court. Both men are facing a 19-count charge, bordering on allegations of accepting gratification, receiving gifts through agents, corruption, and receiving fraudulently obtained properties. Both men had pleaded not guilty, And at the last sitting of the court on Monday, February 24th, the prosecuting counsel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Rotimi Oyedepo, led a former personal assistant to the CBN governor, Mr. Adetola John, to answer some questions. The allegation of bias and recusal subsequently arose from the ruling of the court refusing Emefiele's objection to a question put to the witness. Citing Section 221, subsection 3 of the Evidence Act, the court allowed the question. In his ruling on the request to recuse himself on allegations of bias against the defendants, Justice Oshodi particularly referenced the 2013 decision of the sitting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, to the effect that judicial bias is usually insufficient to justify disqualifying a judge from presiding over a case. To justify disqualification or recusal, the judge's bias must be personal or based on some extrajudicial reason. Justice Oshodi went on to cite other judicial precedents of the Supreme Court and subsequently held that the application for his recusal was unsubstantiated and lacked merit. The court has also granted Emefiele's request to appeal its decision of January 8, 2025, assuming jurisdiction to hear the case. Because of other pending cases and the full docket of the court, trial in the case has been adjourned to May 26 for continuation. Shola Shuyeli, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Dangote refinery reduces ex-depot price of premium motor spirit by 65 naira per litre to 825 naira. That's on Business News. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10, coming to you live from our studios here in Abuja. And we head to Kano State, where the police command has foiled an attempted violent protest and arrested 17 suspected thugs, allegedly hired to attack strategic locations across the state. Speaking to journalists at the command headquarters, the police public relations officer, Mr. Abdullahi Kiawa, confirmed the arrest and reiterated the command's commitment to maintaining law and order. Our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu reports.
Heavy security presence was deployed along State Road in Kano following intelligence reports of a planned violent demonstration. Tensions escalated as some youth attempt to pass through police barricades, prompting a rapid response from security operatives.
We don't know why. We don't know why. They said we are arrogant, we are arrogant. No anyone has anyone of even cutlass or land on our hand or knife. We are not arrogant. We are not arrogant. Are you protesting? We are not protesting. We are students. We are students. We are students.
We are called today by Informatic Institute Management that we gathered at Gidan Murtala by 9 a.m. So we were there since 9 a.m. Around 10:30, we were taken by bus, a Kano State government bus. We are taken to Kura. Just arriving at Audubako Gate, we met a security agency team. So they stopped us and they call some of us to come out and let down. We resist. We say no. Nobody will just let down and be beaten. Therefore, they arrest our boss and ask us to move from the area.
Police confirmed the arrest of 17 suspects believed to have been hired to incite violence and destabilize public peace.
The Kano State Police Command wishes to inform the public that adequate security arrangements have been put in place to prevent any potential breakdown of law and order in Kano State. This follows credible intelligence reports of a planned violence protest by some individuals. On this, the Kano State Police Command, in collaboration with other security agencies in the state, has deployed personnel and assets to strategic locations within Kano metropolis to prevent the protest and ensure public safety. As a result of these proactive measures, 17 suspected thugs endeavor had been arrested An investigation is currently ongoing. The command is committed to ensuring that the perpetrators of this planned violence are brought to justice.
Authorities have urged residents to remain calm and law-abiding while vowing to crack down on any attempt to breach public order. Sadiq Ilyas, Channels Television News.
Well, let's now find out more about the good news from Dangote Refinery. Dominic Iwiwu has more on business news. Dominic?
Thank you, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. Dangote Refinery has announced a 65 naira reduction in the ex-depot price of premium motor spirits, bringing it down from 890 naira to 825 naira per litre. According to the company, the new price takes effect from Thursday, February 27th this year, as part of efforts to stabilize the market and reduce living costs for Nigerians. This is the second PMS price reduction in February 2025, following an earlier 60 naira cut in December 2024. The refinery also reduced fuel prices by 70 naira 50 kobo during the Yuletide season to support consumers. Dangote assures Nigerians of a steady fuel supply through its partner retail outlets and urges marketers to align with the initiative. The World Bank says it has approved $2.2 billion in new loans for Nigeria in 2025, according to its latest project list. The funds will be allocated across 6 projects, with approval set to begin on March the 17th. These projects focus on economic resilience, education, health, and digital infrastructure. Key allocations include $800 million for nutrition, $552 million for education, and $500 million for digital growth. Others include $300 million for health security and another $300 million for displaced communities. According to the World Bank, Nigeria's debt to its International Development Association stood at $16.8 billion as of December 2024, ranking it the 3rd largest borrower. Meanwhile, Nigeria had previously received $1.5 billion in 2024 for economic and development programs. The domestic equities market closed Wednesday's trading session in red, notching 3 straight days of negative performance. Willie Bong tells us more.
Welcome to the stock market report. It's day 3 of trading and the market is still falling deep into the red. Although by a smaller margin today, 0.04% for the all share index, and the market cap lost just about 11 billion naira, still at 67 trillion. No thanks to stocks in the banking and oil and gas sectors. Naming the major culprits, GT Co lost about 1 naira 50 kobo today. Let's look at that chart on the board. Like seeing the banking sector down 0.21%, as I mentioned. GTCO brought that stock down, and being one of the spoogers, it caused a major pullback for that index. O&O still bleeding the oil and gas index, and we saw a reversal for the consumer goods. Honeywell flour still in the mix there, but in a positive way today, and it had Nigerian breweries join in the fun. Now, some stocks saw some volume coming. Let's look at the top 3 for that: Access Holdings, Zenith Bank, and Sterling, all from the financial services sector. Now, when the stock market drop, will investors and traders stay calm and do nothing, or will they buy the dip? Let's see how tomorrow ends. Those are the highlights. Over to you, Dominic. Will Ibang signing out.
And that's it on Business News. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Welcome back. Outside our shores, U.S. President Donald Trump has held his first cabinet meeting today at the White House. Here's Simon Pise with more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine's Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal says a major minerals deal with the United States has been agreed. Speaking to Ukrainian TV, Shmyhal said a clause said that the US was supporting Ukraine's efforts to obtain security guarantees needed to build lasting peace. Media reports say Washington has dropped initial demands for a right to $500 billion worth of potential revenue from the natural resources, but has not given firm security guarantees. US President Donald Trump said he was expecting his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky, in Washington to sign the deal this week.
This vote, the ayes are 217, the nays are 215.
Republicans in the US House of Representatives have narrowly passed a multi-trillion-dollar government spending bill, a major boost for President Donald Trump that advances his agenda. The 217 to 215 person vote was seen as a key early test for Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson, who cancelled an earlier vote as it appeared he did not have enough support. Several Republicans wanted more fiscal discipline from a budget that includes $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, funded partially by spending reductions, but also by potentially increasing the US government's substantial debt pile. But the bill eventually passed along party lines, with all Democrats voting against and just one Republican opposed. Israeli and Hamas officials say the latest impasse in the Gaza ceasefire deal has been resolved by mediators. Israel had delayed the release of 600 Palestinian prisoners on Saturday in protest at what it said was the cruel treatment of Israeli hostages being handed over by Hamas. Hamas said this was a serious violation of the deal. It is now expected that the prisoners will be freed, as well as another group, possibly later on Wednesday or Thursday, in exchange for the return of the bodies of 4 hostages. That would clear the way for the US Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff to visit the region. He said he wants Israel and Hamas to begin delayed talks on the second stage of the ceasefire. Dramatic footage of the aftermath of a military plane crash in Sudan has been released, which killed at least 46 people. 10 others were injured after a Sudanese military plane crashed in a residential neighborhood in Omdurman, the twin city of the capital Khartoum. The cause of the crash, which killed military officers and civilians, is unclear, but military sources have been quoted as saying that it was likely to have been a technical malfunction. The crash came a day after the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, which is at war with the army, said it had downed a fighter jet in South Darfur. Authorities in Rwanda say the UK's decision to suspend some aid to the country is punitive. In a statement, the UK said it was against Rwanda's support for the M23, a rebel group that has captured swathes of Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo in a deadly uprising. Rwanda used to deny backing the M23, but has adopted a more defensive line recently, saying fighting near the border between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda is a threat to its security. More than 7,000 people have died and hundreds of thousands have fled their homes since the conflict escalated in January. The government says 7 organisations will be investigated over the UK's Grenfell Tower disaster, and all 58 recommendations of a public inquiry will be met. Manufacturing companies that are probed could be prevented from bidding for public contracts, while 2 existing bodies will be merged to form a single building safety regulator as part of the changes. Housing Secretary Angela Rayner said the bereaved and the survivors and the members of the Grenfell community are still waiting for the justice they need and deserve.
Sir Martin found that just about every institution and organisation charged with keeping the tower safe and protecting those who called it home failed. His most devastating conclusion was that every single death was avoidable.
And CCTV footage showing the moment thieves stole a solid gold toilet worth £4.8 million has been shown in court. The work of art, called America, was taken from Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire in the early hours of Saturday the 14th of September 2019. Michael Jones from Oxford denies 1 count of burglary. 2 other men both deny conspiring to transfer criminal property. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Let's now join Kelly for more in the world of sports as it takes us through those stories.
Thanks, Anne, and welcome to Sports News. It was a goal first on match day 7 in the Nigeria Women Football League Premiership, with Rivers Angels recording the biggest win, thrashing Adamawa Queens 6-0, with Mary Moses scoring a hat-trick. Kafayat Bashiru was also on a hat-trick as Remo Stars ladies thumped Nasarawa Amazons 4-0. In other results, as you have on the screen here, Edo Queens defeated Ekiti Queens 3-0, while Heartland Queens also recorded same scoreline over Confluence Queens. In Asaba, Delta State capital, Princess Adams' 51st-minute goal was enough for Delta Queens to edge Ibom Angels, and Nigeria Hotels beat Benue Queens. The meantime, in Lagos, FC Robo Queens and Dana's ladies ended the first stanza of the league in defeats. Alaba Labiye scored a brace as Bayelsa Queens spanked FC Robo 3-1. Dana's ladies were no better as they lost 4-1 to Abia Angels, with Mary Lucky scoring a hat-trick in the game. Let's turn to the Nigeria Premier League now. Nasarawa United edged league leaders Remo Stars by a lone goal, and Shooting Stars cut the lead to 9 points with a 1-0 draw at Eyimba. Enugu Rangers were 3-0 winners over Sunshine Stars, and Lobby Stars lost 2-0 at home to Niger Tornadoes. Plateau United beat Bayelsa United 1-0, and Kano Pillars also secured the same results over Aqua United. Elsewhere, Heartland and Economic Warriors, the game ended goalless, while Kwara United and Abia Warriors also settled for a goalless draw. Away from football now, the World Boxing President Boris van der Voort says the recognition of the Sports International Governing Federation by the IOC is one step closer to the objective of seeing boxing restored to the Olympic program. The IOC provisionally recognized World Boxing as the body to oversee the sports at future games earlier today. Boxing is not currently part of the Los Angeles 2028 games.
#1 seed.
And that's your Sports News tonight. I am Kelly. Thank you guys. Back to Anne.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. The All Progressives Congress has held its first National Executive Committee meeting since August 2023. The ruling party passed a vote of confidence on President Bola Tinubu. We also told you that the Trade Union Congress has rejected gradual increase of value-added tax as proposed in the tax reform bills. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Mwawade. Good night and stay safe.